Do it.
All right. Are we rolling? Hello, everybody. This is Jersey Joe, and today we have a special guest here on Heads Up Hockey. We have Neil Villapiano of the Devil's State of Mind Hockey Podcast Network.
Yep.
Uh, Today is going to be an interesting day because we all know with the election going on and the COVID-19 going on, we figured that it would be a much more positive idea where we have to bring you something good to look forward to,
Right.
not just now, but especially with 2021 rolling a few months away. Um, Especially with the players in Europe that we have from the Devils and currently have been drafted. So, Neil, who do you want to start off with?
Honestly, I think the guy that most people want us to start with probably has to be Alexander Holtz. I think he'd probably be the first player that people would say, oh, we want to talk about him, because a lot of people that I've spoken with, I put out a poll a day or two ago and I said, what player are you guys most excited to see, in the future? And of course, it's been like a whopping, Alexander Holtz. People really, really are excited with this kid and they want to see, what he's capable of. And, playing for Djurgården IF in the Swedish Hockey League, or SHL, in case anybody wanted to look that up. He's actually been doing very well. And it seems like ever since he got drafted, it's almost like he just took his game to another level. Like now he just has even more confidence in himself and his own ability as a hockey player. And going into the draft, a lot of people expected him to have the best shot in the entire draft. And I think he's shown that several times. And a lot of Devils fans, particularly if you're on Twitter, have gotten the opportunity to see a lot of the games that he's played so far. And he's actually had a lot of success. Through 8 games, he has 4 goals and 2 assists. And, one thing that's even more exciting is that we're not that far away from the World Junior Championships. And that's something that Devils fans have to be excited about, because we're going to have 7 to possibly 10 prospects in our system playing in that same tournament. So we're going to be represented very much, and that's going to be a great way for Devils fans to really see the future of this team. And talking about it with Holtz, because he is Swedish, so he's playing on the Swedish national team. Right now, he's currently on the Swedish team's first line and also its first power play. So a lot of people would assume that Alexander Holtz is probably the best player on the under 20 team going into the World Junior Championships. And I think the Devils really, really are super ecstatic to have this kid in their system. And if he keeps progressing the way he has been, I think you might actually give him a look in training camp whenever that actually starts.
Yeah, when we were talking on Twitter and with a couple other Devils podcasters, writers, I always say to people, it's not only great to have the best talented player in your pool, it's also great to have a great pool of talented players in the whole entire system, because now you have the internal competition. And this only drives the team to be better internally, and it helps make it harder for Lindy Ruff to make those cuts. And then it gives Recchi and a couple other of the coaches to work with these younger players and get to know them better. Rogalski got, named the goaltending coach. He came over from St. Louis. He was under Martin Brodor's watch in St. Louis as assistant GM. And the Devils have a goaltender that they drafted in Nico Dawes. And, Jake Wakely, my host on the Raising Hell in Jersey podcast that we've done, I know he's pretty high on him, especially I saw a little bit of Nico last year playing for Team Canada, watching Kevin Ball, but let's not get too much onto the whole Ottawa 67 stuff. But I mean, talking about the World Juniors for a moment, Canada still is going to be a pretty solid team. Don't get me wrong. I think Sweden's got a really solid team going forward. Lucas Raymond, could have easily slipped if it weren't for Detroit. Then you got Dawson Mercer, whose campaign has been kind of riddled with COVID-19 in the QMJHL.
Right, right. And talking about Dawson Mercer, I mean, before we had to stop and play in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, he was on a tear. He was really on a tear. 4 goals, 3 assists. But he really was doing a tremendous job. And actually, they just came back on November 3rd. So now they're finally back to playing. And I also checked a lot of people's projections as to what the under 20 Canada team is going to look like. And it looks like to me that Dawson Mercer is probably going to be on that team. And it might be either the second line or certainly on the bottom 6 for him. But again, just having it, even just one player from your organization playing for a big country like Canada, that's really, that really means a lot. I don't know if Nico Dawes is going to get an opportunity. I didn't see that he got an invite. What was that?
I think he might be a little old or something like that, or he
Yeah,
might
I was
not
thinking
reach the cutoff.
Right, because both him, because him, Ty Smith, and I think Kevin Ball are all over the age that would allow them to play. So that's why they're not there. Because I think some people were asking me, why was Kevin Ball, why was Ty Smith, and even why was Nico Dawes not on the team? And I think it mainly has to do with the fact that they're just too old to be playing in that. But I know Ty Smith and Ball did play together in the World Junior Championships last year. So they do have a little bit of history. But going back to Dawson Mercer, yeah, I mean, this is an opportunity for a lot of us Devils fans to get a even better look at this kid playing on an international stage. People are going to be watching him. And if he could step up and contribute to hopefully a very successful run in the WJC for Team Canada, that's going to up his, it's going to up his, I guess you would say, value to the organization moving forward. So again, another player that we definitely have to keep our eye on. And if he keeps playing the way he started this season with Shikudny Saganese, I mean, it's going to be.
To me, yes.
Yeah, if he continues to play that way, I would not be shocked if maybe, towards the end of this season, if let's say the Devils are not in a playoff spot and they're just trying to see what they have, he might get a call. He might get called up and say, hey, here's your opportunity. That may very well be. But, he's a kid that a lot of people, said was a steal. People were surprised that he was there when the Devils took him. I think a lot of people thought he was going to get taken 2 or 3 picks earlier, but he was there. And I think it kind of changed Tom Fitzgerald's, draft board a little bit and said, I think we just got to go with the best player on the board here. And that's what they did. And they took Dawson Mercer. And he's a kid that I think has a potential to be a guy that can very well be in the NHL in the next 2 or 3 years.
I've actually, I've read, a little bit of scouting reports. I've written stuff on him before. When I see him play, in the QMJHL in his draft year, what I noticed was, the 200-foot game gets mentioned a lot, but it's that physical game, that strong on the puck, high danger presence, and that will to get the board battles in the favor of him and his team, which is where the Devils usually get bullied, at the NHL level. He's got so much size for a kid his age and a lot of muscle mass.
Right.
And he's got that good Newfoundlander shot. We're used to Purcell, a really younger Michael Ryder. Just to throw a few Newfoundlanders out there.
I mean, we could throw in Ryan Clough a little bit because of the body size,
Yeah, and the physicality that you got to have a really good Newfie out there. I just think he's gonna be probably the best Newfoundlander in this decade if he can be more established. Now, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Steve Kornianos was on the Raising Hell in Jersey podcast. Thanks to Jake, who's not with us now. Kornianos pointed out that the way that Mercer plays to that that stereotypical Hockey Canada, tough, gritty, can score, will wear you down. And I think that's one of the reasons why they could compete for a medal easily.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they win another gold.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this, like every year, this is just another very talented Canadian squad. One that's certainly going to be probably competing for a medal, and I think most likely going to end up competing for the gold medal. I would be surprised if they weren't in the gold medal game. But obviously, chemistry is an important thing, and that will remain to be seen. But Dawson Mercer, you mentioned it, Joe, and I really like it. Is that
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the young players that the Devils have on this team right now, they're not big body. Yeah, they can skate. Yeah, they can be creative. Yeah, they can make plays. But when they get lined up and they get hit, sometimes they just they can't stand on their feet or they get knocked down too easily. And I think let's use Nico Hischier as a really good example. Nico in his first year, he got banged around a lot. I mean, he really got. I mean, first game against Colorado, he gets slammed to the boards, and obviously, the Devils, came to his rescue and everything. But he went hard, like because he just doesn't have a lot of strength. And then there was a lot of criticism of that as well when they got to the Stanley Cup playoffs and they lost in that 5-game series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. What Nico did in the offseason is he put up 20, 25 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
And even now, he's a lot bigger. He can handle the physicality of the game. And Jack Hughes, now going into his second season, you're already hearing he's put on a lot of muscle mass. Because again, when you first get in the NHL, the number one thing that people notice right away from a player's perspective is how physical and how big these players are. No matter whether you're an offensive player, a defensive player, or you're a goalie, like you have to build up your strength. And I think Dawson Mercer has already kind of done that before he even steps on an NHL ice. And I think that will be an advantage to him once he gets to the NHL. He's a guy that I honestly project to be on our third line, a scrappy player that can get us 15, 16 goals a year, could be maybe be on our second power play, could very well be on the penalty kill. He could be just that type of guy that we look for in every single key situation, and we put him out there. He could very well be the next Blake Coleman, if I want to use.
Or even better than a Coleman.
Or even better, exactly. Again, a guy that can be dependable in all phases of the game.
Right. So, that brings me to the point of every player is different in their bell curve stage. So to me, like when I watched Nico Hischier in his first year, I kind of had an idea where he may not score around 50 points, but he did look very good with Taylor Hall. He looked pretty good on the first two lines. He had that instant chemistry. He had that Datsyukian, stick handling, in the defensive zone, taking away time and space.
Right.
I noticed there's a lot of similarities with, I wouldn't say Jack Hughes' game, but I've noticed that there's actually pretty good defensive structure for a guy like Muhammad Duleen, where I've seen him at points, take a few hits here and there, playing defense.
Right.
And when he skates, for a guy his size, he actually can hold his own. But it's his line mate that, causes the trouble. I've seen it where Salavat Yulayev had a bad game against, I think it was not Metallurg, I think it was CSKA or something like that. They were lost like 4-0 or something, but two of which were on his teammate's side of the ice. And I was trying to explain to Matt Junio, who writes for Pucks and Pitchforks, what I saw. And I said, he did a good job holding his own end of the ice. If the other guy, being his teammate, doesn't hold his end of the bargain, you're gonna not have pretty good chemistry, and you're gonna have that guy work twice as hard to be as efficient. Which I think the Devils have something that they probably fixed already, given the fact that they have, Riley Walsh, you have Ball, Ochutiuk, you have all these kids that are lined up, possibly for a short camp, and it's going to be like a rapid fire.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think one of the advantages, one of the things that we have to remember, and I want Devils fans to understand, is that we're one of the 7 teams that's going to get an extra start time to training camp. We're going to have an earlier start time and be given more of an opportunity to get into game shape. And honestly, I think through the first month and change, that's going to be an advantage to the Devils. It's, they're probably going to come out in some games early on where they're just flat out, faster. They're, more disciplined, they're just more in shape just because they have that advantage. If you want to talk about Muhammad Duleen, one of the things that I'm really excited about him is that just like Holtz, ever since he got drafted, he's almost elevated his game to another level. Like he's just gotten better. He has this, unwavering amount of confidence. He's been a mainstay, for UFA in the KHL. Like he's played in every game but one because they depend on him so much. He's played in 24 of the 25 games already this season. That's really good. And then you look at it, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points in those games, top 10 in scoring on his team as a defenseman, playing in the second hardest league in hockey other than the National Hockey League. If he's having that amount of success at his age there, even though the NHL is somewhat of a transition, smaller ice, maybe just, you're obviously going up against the best players in the world. You do get some great talent in the KHL, but it's not, not compared to what you get in the National Hockey League. You're seeing that and you sit there and say, geez, I think the Devils might have actually hit a home run with this pick. I mean, let's face it. I don't think any of us thought Muhammad Duleen was going to be picked by the Devils in the first round. In fact, I didn't know who he was until he got drafted. I'm just going to be honest with you.
I will say the same thing. I'm in the same boat. However, when usually I hear the name the KHL, I always assume it's one of the hardest leagues for a young guy to break through. And back to Steve Cornianos, he goes, having a coach or whoever telling the coach to play this kid because this kid's that good, despite being 18 years old, almost 19, he's probably too competitive for the VHL and so far out of the league of the MHL being the second tier below the junior hockey league, other tier of the junior hockey there. And that's why you don't really hear much about Arseny Grizzyack because he may not be ready to play at the KHL level as much, but he has to play the MHL before the VHL had to start up. So that's kind of like where things are going with certain Devils prospects in the KHL. And Jillian Kemmerer actually spoke very highly about guys like Muhammad Duleen. And I know some people, I love Will Scouch and I love Rachel Dory with their analytical side. I tend to disagree with the eye test. It's not always numbers. I see as performance and results with numbers. So if I can see that Muhammad Duleen can perform his defensive zone exits, his neutral zone entries, and being a better puck carrier and entering the zone with ease and controlling the puck better than when he was drafted, that tells me a whole lot because, like you said, the Devils knew something special with their Russian scouts.
Right. You could look, first of all, let's just be honest. Ever since the Devils, came to New Jersey and, especially since Lou Lamoriello took over, Lou always had an infatuation with Russian prospects. Yeah, of course. It's just, that's how it is. And ever since then, the Devils have created a system with regards to their Russian scouts that they, scout that nation very heavily because they know that there is a lot of talent to be looked at and evaluated every single year. So the Devils clearly saw something in Muhammad Duleen and they said, I don't think this kid is going to be available in the second or third round. So we might as well take him now because he's the best player on the board, on our board, because he might not have been on any other board in the first round for any other team, but the Devils might say, look, he's the best player there. We got to take him now. And especially because if they hadn't taken a defenseman in the first round, I think we all would have been a little bit critical and a little bit nervous because it would be like, why are we not upgrading our defense and making it a little bit better? But another thing about Muhammad Duleen, and then I want to talk about Grizzyack for a minute.
Yes.
Muhammad Duleen, he was named to Russia's World Junior Camp. Not a surprise. And what makes it even more intriguing, he's an alternate captain. What does that tell you?
Leadership skill.
Exactly. That tells you that this kid has leadership, and he's 18 going on 19 years of age. This kid is already matured well beyond his own age. And that is something that is huge for the Devils looking forward. And considering that we have a lot of young, talented prospects on the defensive, on the defensive front moving forward, Kevin Ball, Riley Walsh, Ty Smith, guys like that, you add a Muhammad Duleen, and it's almost like we are creating that culture that Tom Fitzgerald said that he wanted to create, with leaders, with guys that are good locker room people who want to do what's best for the team and not for themselves. And I think Muhammad Duleen is that type of player. And so it's not just that he's been performing, stats wise, he also is an impact in the locker room for a team. And he's very, very bright. He's matured beyond his age, and it's really important. Now, talking about Grizzyack, he also is going to be on the Russia's World Junior team, or at least he got invited to camp. At least that's what we know at this point.
Make it first if he's invited.
Exactly.
And Valerie Brogin has a very, very serious history with playing young guys under 20. Usually has a bunch of 19 guys and mostly 18ers and maybe one 17er at least. So it's going to be very competitive.
Yeah, and let's face it, Russia wants to win. So they're going to try their best to have even if the kid is 17 years of age, if he's the best player on the team, he's going to be put in the lineup. I mean, that's how it is. But talking about Grizzyack, here's the thing that I find very intriguing. He's played in 3 different leagues this season alone. He's played in the VHL, he's played in the MHL, and he's played a little bit in the KHL. What does that tell you? This kid has potential through the roof. Like, this kid has the ability to be a very, very good player. And the way that his team is bringing him along, they're bringing him along correctly. They're taking their time with him. They're not rushing him. They understand that it takes some time to get used to every single league, and that's what they've done. And playing for Avangard Omsk, he doesn't have any points through 6 games, but that doesn't mean that he's still not contributing in other facets. I think a lot of hockey fans, particularly younger hockey fans, the thing that they always look for is, well, how many points does he have? How many goals does he have? You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean, Joe,
exactly.
Right?
Like it's like sorry to the social media crowd. I know, usually when I'm on a Devils Facebook group, I'm usually just reading a little bit here and there. But what I will say is, over the years, oh, why aren't you putting up X amount of goals, X amount of assists? But really what comes down to, let me bring this down to a perspective. Alexis Lafreniere, the year before his draft year, he didn't perform much or at all points-wise. And guess what happened to Quentin Byfield? He didn't have that much of effect. However, they both were good away from the puck.
Right.
Why do you think these guys were in the top 2 selection of their respective NHL drafts? Because some guys take a little bit longer to learn the pressures of being at a U20 World Junior environment, especially when they had fans in the stands.
Right.
They won't this year.
No, of course not. Well, I mean, you're talking about from the KHL's perspective, because I thought that they said that there's some teams.
I was thinking about Alberta or something like that.
Oh, Alberta. Yeah. Well, they're obviously no fans. We
That's
know.
a bubble.
Right. Exactly. They're playing basically where the Stanley Cup Finals was in basically. But, going back to Grizzyack, he's done really well in the MHL, through 6 games, 4 goals, 5 assists. That's pretty consistent. So he probably needs a little bit more time in the, I guess, if you want to call it the minor leagues, so to speak.
Yeah.
To call it that, he needs a little bit more time in there, and I don't think that's an issue. I don't, but the fact that he's been given an opportunity to play a handful of games in the KHL tells you that the organization that he plays for feels excited about this kid. They know that he has potential, and they just want to bring him along correctly. They don't want to rush things. They don't want they don't want to put too much on his plate right away. And having the opportunity now that most likely he could be on Russia's national team going into the World Junior Championships with Mohamed Duleen, they can build chemistry. They can build a relationship while playing together. Obviously, it's two different positions. He's a winger and Mohamed Duleen is a defenseman. But they're part of the same team. And it will allow Devils fans and people within the organization to continue to evaluate and look at these kids and say, okay, how do they work together? How does it work? Are they play, same penalty kill? Like, what are we looking for here? You know what I'm saying? So it's so again, Grizzyack is a guy that I'm not going to say is a hit or miss prospect. He's a guy that if he's developed correctly, and the Devils, I think sometimes, maybe rush guys, in my opinion, they rush some players and hoping that they'll, catch on very quickly. If they just take their time with this kid and let him go as well, and look, they got time. They have a lot of time with this kid before they sign him to a contract. It could very well work out. And I'm not saying that, this kid's going to be a star in the making, but he could be a player that could come in when he's 21, 22, 23 years of age. And he just adds, a little bit of scoring, a little bit of playmaking, and is a solid penalty killer, down the road. That's one of the things that I've heard also.
Kind of like Coleman was, and maybe a little bit similar skill to Jesper Bratt in a way.
Yeah, I mean, you could put him in that. I would say more like, I'm trying to think of like a player that really kind of fits what I'm saying. Here's one. I would say that Grizzyack is a little bit more talented version of a Steven Gianta, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Gianta was really good fourth liner, third liner.
Right, and he scored, 7-8 goals a year. And they were timely goals. They were not like in times when it didn't matter. He would come through in those timely situations when the team needed a big penalty kill or a goal, whatever. He's standing in front of the net, tipping pucks. That's what he was good at. Grizzyack, from what I've seen, plays that similar role. That's what that's what his teams expect of him. And as a result, it makes it, he makes himself more valuable to more teams because they say, oh, this kid can do this, and this. And that's, if you can make yourself, more reliable in 3, 4, 5 different facets of the game, you're going to get a lot more looks, and you're going to get a lot of looks very quickly. And that's why I think he's gotten the opportunity to play in the KHL a little bit. But, these two guys are definitely going to be on my radar once the World Junior Championships begin. I think Mohamed Duleen is probably a surefire in. I mean, he's an alternate captain. There's no way he's not making the team. Grizzyack, I think it's 50-50 right now. But I would sure love to see him make the team, no doubt.
Yeah, I was going to say, usually, I already started, 10 prospects already in the 2021 draft. I already did a short shift on 3 players, if you didn't know, that I put out on Twitter.
I think we were talking about that, yeah.
And so what I usually do is I try and get as many prospects in. Usually there's that old Cherry Ore tournament, which is now the red and whatever match now.
Okay.
They call it, but it's the prospects game. And I usually write a bunch of notes on guys that I think that stood out the most. And that's what I usually do during the World Juniors. And so what I do is what caught my eye was I saw Holtz and Raymond play together. Mm-hmm. And I saw that Raymond completed Holtz's game, being more of the setup guy, and Holtz was the finisher. I was like, if this kid could finish X amount of plays like that, scoring, Jack Hughes not going to have a problem having a guy near and long-term completing wonderful scoring drives, mid to high danger at the NHL level. But I really wanted to talk more about Nico Dawes because, I know he's probably a little bit too old Team Canada, but he's going to be ready to come up, maybe come to camp, and Brodeur's going to be keeping an eye on him.
Yeah.
But the Devils have a good sense about this kid. They say his reflexes is good, his athleticism is pretty good, his calmness under pressure is very good. What do you think?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that you can never have too many goalies. I think one of the running jokes over the last couple of years is that if, every year we expect the Devils to draft a goalie every year. That doesn't mean he's going to be on, he's going to be in the organization 2 or 3 years down the road. But at the same time, when you see a goalie like that, especially because with Nico Dawes, he was the top North American goaltender in the draft. And when the Devils had the chance to select him, again, it was probably one of those situations where it was best player on the board. We got to take him because we're trying to develop, we're trying to create as much depth as possible. And the other thing is this, and let's be real. We don't have a definitive long-term solid backup behind Mackenzie Blackwood. Now, the Devils did sign Corey Crawford for a 2-year deal, but they signed him to a 2-year deal because if Corey Crawford doesn't pan out that much this year, the Devils can just leave him exposed in the Seattle expansion draft, and they can just move on from him. Mm-hmm. The Devils have some young, goalies that show promise. Grizzyack is very high on my radar. He played 1 game last year in the NHL, and that was about it.
The defense let him out to dry.
And the defense screwed him over, but then again, everybody was getting screwed over. Nonetheless.
It's just a systemic problem.
Exactly. Grizzyack, I would like to hope that as he continues to develop, that not only can he be a guy that we can rely on in the future, but also a guy that, Switzerland can rely on. Because here's the thing, Switzerland doesn't have a lot of NHL goalies. And I'm not trying to, they haven't had a true number 1 goalie since Jonas Hiller, who I had the pleasure of interviewing a few months ago. Right. And I was talking to Jonas Hiller about Grizzyack, and, Hiller didn't know very much about him, but the evaluation that he gave me was that, look, if the kid can play, he deserves to be given an opportunity. And I think Grizzyack, I really think that he is the missing backup goalie that we've been lacking. That's not saying that I'm crapping on Nico Dawes. I'm not. Because if Grizzyack doesn't work out, it could be Nico Dawes. Or, we have Evan Cormier, who we're actually recording this on his birthday. So happy birthday.
Yep, that's correct. Happy birthday, Evan.
We still have him. And we still have Cole Brady playing at Arizona State.
So you got a couple players that you can let pan out and not have to rush.
We have a multitude of options. But I know the Devils are very high on Nico Dawes. He played really well last year in the OHL. Right. And the question is he the goalie of the future other than Blackwood? We don't know. And he won't really have much of it. What was that?
We have 3 unknowns about the goaltending.
We have too many unknowns to say,
yes.
To say the least. That's, again, still probably the number 1, or at least certainly number 2 problem that we have right now. But Nico Dawes could be somebody that the Devils just invite to training camp, maybe, give him a couple days to kind of, feel everything out, because I don't think any team is going to have the ability to have that developmental camp, which is so important, in my opinion, because then fans, players who are already on the team, and people within the organization can get a personal, relationship with these young players. And we can say, how'd this kid do? Do you remember Fabian Zetterlin? You remember him, right?
Yes.
You remember him last year? Absolutely kicked ass.
He was pretty solid the way he is. Someone described him a few seasons ago that he's a more North American style Swedish forward who could easily play, middle 6 pairing minutes at tops. And I would like to think that if you have him, you have maybe Kuokkanen, maybe Boqvist.
Boqvist, yeah.
You could have Boqvist not feel like he's going to get muscled off the puck much, but you could have Kuokkanen, who being the Finn, they all come in swift, and someone could be the decoy for the other guy. The other guy can be the skill guy that gets open, creates the plays. And I find Zetterlin could be the type of guy that creates the chaos down in the danger zone, and the high danger that is technically. And wait for like a nice little laser of a wrister and tip it in and get a good rebound. And that's what I think Mark Recchi's coming into play, where he's going to teach these guys, this situation, that situation, power play 5-on-5, where you have a Hall of Famer similar to Adam Oates' stature that we haven't had in a long time. And I think Recchi's even better in that sort of forward mindset. Nothing against Adam Oates from his year in 2011, 2012.
Yeah. So going back to what I was saying, Fabian Zetterlin, he really made a lot of people take notice of him, because I remember when the Devils went to Buffalo and played in that, prospect tournament against the Bruins and also
Hockeyville, I think.
Yeah. He really stood out. He made a lot. He was really, really good. And I was sitting there and saying to myself, where did this kid come from? Because I don't remember us drafting him. I don't know anything. And I would say he's actually off to a solid start playing for AIK in the hockey, and I'm going to say this name wrong, the Hockey Allsvenskan League.
Allsvenskan, which is the tier below the SHL.
Right. So And he's done well, a goal, 2 assists in 4 games. I don't know if he's signed officially. I don't think.
Oh, sorry. I can check that out for you.
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but
I'll dig.
But my point is simply this. There are going to be players like Nico Dawes that are probably going to get an opportunity to be invited to training camp just because, they probably won't make the team, but they want to be, the organization wants to evaluate them, in person, see them, wonder to themselves, okay, what do we have in this kid? Because I don't know what the OHL situation is with regards to playing. I don't even know. So they're kind of in limbo. And, if Nico has to lose a year, that could be very, detrimental to his evaluation. He might then just be given an opportunity to come to Binghamton if we need a goalie there.
All right, so not to cut you off, but cutting into Fabian Zerlin, yes, he plays for the parent club in the Hockey Allsvenskan for AIK, where's number 99 for a fun fact for you Devils fans, hockey nerds out there. 5'11", 218 pounds for a 21-year-old birthday. So he's simply got a lot of muscle mass, if you ask me, for a guy his size.
Right.
And, like I said, it's good to have him in the Allsvenskan where he doesn't need to be rushed. But if AIK needs someone to call up, they have a guy that they can trust in.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. Is he signed? Do they have him signed?
Yeah, it says NHL rights, New Jersey Devils /signed.
Okay, great. So we have
2017.
I think that could be a kid that, maybe not this year, but maybe next year could be a camp invite or, developmental camp if they, I don't know if 22-year-olds get invited to something like that. I'm not sure. But
I think there might be other things that are contractual.
Right, of course.
He might be more of interesting.
He might be more of a kid that most likely could be playing with Binghamton, maybe even this year, depending on certain circumstances.
Oh yeah.
But look, we have a lot of players that, let's face it, to most Devils fans, they're like, these kids we probably will never see them. And you might be absolutely right. You might be. Look, not every player that gets drafted by a team is going to end up making the team down the road.
Get traded.
Get traded. I mean, look, let's, the Devils did draft both Martin Berder's sons, and not to be disrespectful, but neither one of them made the Devils team. And matter of fact, I don't think either one of them got close.
And I think one of them went into a European league.
Right. And I think he's still playing, actually. I think it's Anthony that's still is.
Yeah, I think he was in the Erste Liga with Hungary.
But that's my point. So the reason that we talk about these guys and, we give you the stats, and yeah, I mean, again, it doesn't sound like, oh my God, this guy sounds like, he's amazing. That's not the point. The point is that these kids you need to keep your eye on, because in case they take another major step and all of a sudden they're on the team, you're sitting there and saying, I remember this kid, or like, where did this kid come from? You have to keep your mind on those things. One guy that Devils fans need to, is a name that the Devils fans need to remember, or, certainly have to keep in their mind, is Igor Sharon Govich. I mean,
yes.
This kid has
the Belarusian brute
kicking ass in the KHL. He's one of the top 10 best players in the league.
He's one of the top goal scorers in the league.
Right. Right now he's on loan to Dynamo Minsk, who I have a lot of friends that I have a lot of friends who watch the KHL that are actually fans of that team. And 10 goals in 21 games. That's awesome.
Wow.
In the second toughest league in the world, he's doing that well. Top 10. He's at number 6. He's nearly in the top 5 in scoring this year, and he's the youngest player in the top 10 in the KHL. So this kid clearly has taken his game to another level. I remember seeing him play in the preseason last year. He also played, I think, for Binghamton most of last year, and he did some good things. But now he's a year older. He's playing in the KHL, and I'm sure the Devils organization is looking at him and saying, wow, we have to really give this kid a look, because he's really doing a lot of really good things, and he keeps getting better with every single game. I mean, he's the best player on Dynamo, and he's the youngest player on Dynamo, and he's on loan. He's not even really under contract with that team. He's on loan to them. Yes,
that's correct. He's 22 years old, from Minsk, Belarus. He's 6'2", 205 pounds. He's a lefty. He's a 98 birthday. So he's one of those guys that, like you said, he's developing. Looking at his past couple seasons with Belarus in 2016, 2017, he had 15 goals and 13 assists in 38 games. With the KHL in 17-18, 4 goals, 8 assists in 47 games. So he's kind of learning. And then he goes to the AHL. He scores 5 more points, but getting 5 more goals in 18-19. And then last year in the shortened hockey season he played in, he got 10 goals and 15 assists in 57 games. Yet, if you compare his AHL to his KHL numbers, in half the span, you got less than half the span. You have 21 games played, 10 goals, 2 assists, and 10 goals, 2 assists, 12 points. That's almost double the rate.
Yeah.
At the second best league.
Yep.
So he's literally on a tear.
He is on a tear, and he's on pace to have a 20-25 goal season if he continues to play the way he's been playing. I think if he keeps playing this way, by the time we actually get to training camp, I would be shocked if he wasn't invited at least and given an opportunity. Because if he's the type of player that the Devils could use in the now, then use him. Because if he's contributing like that, and he can contribute like that in the NHL, we have a very talented player. And I think we have to, again, he's in the top 10 in scoring in the KHL. Right now, he's considered one of the top 10 best players this season in the second toughest league in the world. That, for a kid that's 22 years of age, that is something that really excites me personally, and really shows that we might have hit a home run on a kid that was like, what, a 4th round pick?
Yeah, let me double check that.
I think it was a 3rd or 4th round pick.
He was a 5th rounder in 2018. 141 picks later.
Jeez, that's unbelievable.
Just imagine if he could be a little bit more better than one of the Kostitsyn brothers.
Yeah.
because the Kostichins are from Belarus. And I know a lot of hockey fans, when they hear like Belarus, they just think Russia. Actually, it's pretty close to like, my ancestors' homeland of Poland and Lithuania. So like literally it's like just east of Central Europe,
Right.
Northern Europe. So if you'd go on a train from Minsk, you could go to like Krakow, you could go to Warsaw, you could go to Vilnius. You could see why, the KHL guys can all, like hang out with people like Dinas Zubris,
Right.
and get to know how to play, the older school hockey. But meanwhile, the KHL has gotten a lot better. But if people really love the physical side,
Absolutely.
Jared Govich can play physical. And I think him and Maltsev, when they are in camp, I think they can do amazing things coming up, where Maltsev in that preseason game against the Rangers, did you see how well a lot of KHL players play with the puck in the offensive zone? They literally use both of their feet to widen it and make it hard for people to bring them down.
Yeah.
And I see that as a KHL trait.
Mm-hmm.
Both these players have.
He's a very talented player. Talking about Maltsev, obviously a lot of Devils fans remember him from last year scoring that incredible goal on I think it was not Georgiev. I think it was
Shesterkin, maybe?
Shesterkin, I believe it was, that he scored that goal on. And a lot of people then were trying to figure out, where did this kid come from? Just like me, didn't know who he was. Going to be fair. But he actually had a pretty solid season last year in Binghamton. 11 goals, 10 assists in 49 games played. He's on loan right now with arguably the most visible team in the KHL in SKA St. Petersburg. And yes, he has 1 assist and has played in 4 games. But at the same time, a young player playing on a stacked team, that's gonna happen. But I will say this: a lot of criticism from him was that being a centerman, he wasn't doing that well on the face-off percentage. I think it was less than 50% last year in Binghamton. This year with the KHL, 61% right now. That's really good that he's made his game better. And playing with a great team like SKA St. Petersburg, that goes a long way.
There's a culture of winning in that organization.
Right.
And you had guys like Nikita Gusev come from there, and you have these great alum that, coaches, management from SKA St. Petersburg. You have, I think Datsuk played for them. You had Kovalchuk who played for them. And you could see that, these players go there to become a winner. And I believe that's a good problem to have. Even if you can't crack the lineup that much, what it tells is that you are considered very highly. It's just that the ice time is hard to get.
Yeah, exactly. Because look, SKA St. Petersburg doesn't know how long they're going to have Maltsev. So it's not about, for SKA, it's more about they like this kid and they want him in their lineup. They just know that he's just not going to get a lot of ice time because of how talented the team is. They're focusing, talking about St. Petersburg, they're focusing on winning the KHL. Maltsev is there primarily to play hockey, to get in shape, and probably be given an opportunity to compete in training camp. That's his goal while he's in St. Petersburg. But while he's there, he's playing for a franchise that has known for winning and building that winning culture. And that's something that Fitzgerald has continued to bring out and say all the time and harp on. Culture, culture, culture. He wants to build a winning, proud culture in New Jersey. And if he can get his players to go on loan to places where winning is very big and creating a culture like that is important, they come over to New Jersey and they bring that experience, that understanding. They know what it takes, and they can make it flow throughout the entire organization to other guys on the team and say, guys, when I was over in, Russia with SKA St. Petersburg, we were doing this. Why? Because we knew it would work, and it's going to create that success on the ice.
And better habits of playing.
Right. And again, Maltsev can be developed into a leader. by playing for a team like that, because he's learning from, talent around him every single night he's playing with that team. So that goes a long way. So even though stats wise, he's not putting up numbers that make us say, holy crap, this is unbelievable. He's doing as well as he can with the situation that he has. And that's all he really can do.
Yeah, and we talk about, other kids that, they're playing for a winning team or they're playing in their home country. Right. And I want to move a little bit more westward. I want to go to Central Europe, where I actually visit this beautiful country. It doesn't get enough recognition in hockey.
Okay.
It doesn't get enough recognition in the travel industry. Marian Studenic, he plays for HC Slovan in Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia. They actually tested 66% of their population for COVID-19 in Bratislava. But anyways, I want to let people know that he himself has scored 3 goals, an assist in 5 games for HC Slovan while he's on loan.
And he's on their second line, I believe, as well.
If that is true, because
that's what I read a prospect update from the Devils website that said he's playing on the second line as we speak. With that,
for those who are new to Marian Studenic, he did play for the Hamilton Bulldogs in the OHL not long ago. He's a 6'1", 181 pounds. He's 22. Don't be surprised when this loan is done that he could possibly make the NHL roster, like 3rd or 4th line, and the Devils won't have to rush him.
Right.
And the Devils have had a really good history with Czechs and Slovaks. Like, of course, they drafted Jaromir Pitlick in the 4th round,
right?
Because of Patrick Elias, and Slovakia being the rival country, but literally they're basically siblings,
right?
And you see this competitive culture where the Slovaks and the Czechs are always going to breathe down each other's necks and on the ice, but they're best of brothers off the ice. And to me, like, if you can have a Slovak like him in the locker room and possibly mentor Jaromir Pitlick, if Pitlick decides that he comes to camp instead of going straight to the Sioux in OHL, you could build a couple of similar countrymen to build a chemistry within the clubhouse. And to touch on Pitlick more, Pitlick is built like a tank. Like what I saw in his highlights, not only can he skate, but he's also agile. And if he gets towards the crease of an opposing goaltender, good luck trying to prevent him from crashing your net, because with that amount of weight going towards you, with that amount of gravitational forces, good luck, because I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the Devils a few years from now and becomes a big fan sensation, kind of like how we have Coleman, but with silkier mitts.
Yeah, I mean, Pitlick has actually done pretty well so far, playing for the Czech under-20 team, I believe, at the moment. And he is actually the team's point leader because he has 2 goals and 4 assists for 6 points so far. So clearly this kid, has the makings to be a very, very good NHL player. And knowing that he comes from, the same country as Patrick Elias, and Patrick Elias, I believe, is one of the coaches.
Yes, assistant coach.
So they, so the Devils have something that not a lot of other teams have, and that is that personal insight right on the bench to say, Patrick, what do you see in this kid? Is this somebody that we need to keep our eye on? Is this somebody that, is going to help us in the next 2 or 3 years? What are we looking at? And he could be as honest as possible and say, good or bad things. And that will, help determine, his future. And I think that that's something that's really important. There are 3 guys that I don't know if we have time.
No. we got plenty of time.
Right. There's only 3 more guys that I really wanted to discuss tonight. The first one, obviously, is Yanni Kuokkanen, because I'm telling you right now, Yanni Kuokkanen is going to be on the Devils team when this season starts. I'm almost certain of that. I think the Devils, the fact that they got him in the trade for Sami Vatanen
From the Charlotte Checkers.
It was a steal. It was an absolute steal because he was the best player on the Checkers, and we got him. He comes to Binghamton, and he immediately is the best player on Binghamton. He comes to New Jersey, and he actually was pretty good in the couple of games he actually played. And so far, he returned on loan to his Liga team in Karpat. He's had 1 goal and 2 assists through 11 games. But I'm telling you right now, this kid can be a 15 to 20 goal scorer if developed correctly. I think this is somebody the Devils are going to be very high on because of the fact that they got him in a trade. They think they really want to see what this kid can do. He has some NHL experience. I think that would give him an advantage that he will use going into training camp. I would be surprised if he wasn't there at training camp, but I think this kid does have the makings to be a very, very good player that can help us in the long term. I really do believe that.
I really like the way that, Liga is set up in Finland. Karpat always develops like really good players, and they seem to have, really good ways of developing these kids after drafting them.
Right.
Then they have that SM Liga, where Eetu Pakila came from, and he's starting to come along a lot better. I know most
that
people.
Was one of the other guys I wanted to
his
talk
name.
about as well. I wanted to talk about Eetu. I wanted to talk about him as well.
So yeah, like the Devils have really done a great job in Finland.
Right.
Whether it's drafting guys from there or scouting guys who are familiar with the guys from Liga in the AHL and the NHL level. Mm-hmm. And this goes to show the way when Shiro and Fitzgerald were together, Fitzgerald was taking a blueprint from Shiro, meanwhile flipping it into his kind of own thing and starting to get those guys on the same page and what he wanted at that trade for that deadline. And I didn't think they would get Kuokkanen, but really, when I watched Yanni, I really wanted to go see him before the pandemic started.
Right.
And I was excited to see this kid. And to me, like, he's got speed, smarts, sense. To me, he's got the whole package.
Right.
And I think his skating has come a long way, and it's starting to pay dividends. And I can see why Tommy Fitzgerald went all in on this guy.
Yeah, they really like him. He has NHL experience. And let's remember, a lot of these guys that Devils have, they want to be in the NHL, and they're going to try their best to get there, whether it's with the Devils or not. So they're going to try their best to do what they can. And when you look at the players that are on loan, because not all these guys are on loan, but when you look at the players that are on loan, that tells you that the Devils like these kids. They want to see them play more because they have expectations for them down the road. Yanni Kuokkanen is one of those kids. He's been put on loan. Why? Because the Devils want him to keep playing, because they want him to be ready to go once the season starts. And again, do not be surprised, Devils fans, if some of these kids, if they get a shot to be on the team right away, don't be surprised if they have a little bit more of an advantage. They're skating a little faster. They're a little bit more quick to the puck than some of the other guys on the team, because they'll already be in game shape by the time training camp starts. They'll have an advantage. They'll be ready to go right away. So that's something to look at. Another guy that is doing really well, Nick Merkley. I mean, the Devils signed him to a 1-year, 2-way deal. Right. And, he was loaned to Esset in the Finnish league, and 4 goals, 5 assists in 12 games.
How about that highlight?
If this kid plays like this, the Devils just added another talented player in it, and it will just add on another win with regards to the Taylor Hall trade, because Kevin Ball and the first round pick were the big things in this trade. Yeah. No question about it. When Nick Merkley came and played a couple of games, he got a black eye, he roughed it up a little bit. Devils fans were like, okay, this kid's pretty good. He went down to the AHL. He had some good games. Now he gets put on loan. He goes to the Finnish league and is kicking ass, from the time he got there. And that really sits there and you say to yourself, wow, this kid's developing his game. This kid's getting better. I mean, we're getting a bonus here if this kid can keep getting better. We're adding a bonus to that trade. And I think that that's something to keep in mind. He's on the team's first line. And I actually heard from the coach of Assat is that they said that he was just such a pleasant surprise and a pleasant addition to this team because they weren't scoring that much before he got there. Once he got there, their offense has taken it to another level because he's constantly finding himself in good positions. I remember this past week, he had a great situation where he's standing on the left side of the net, wide open, gets a beautiful pass, and he takes a one-timer into a wide open net. It was absolutely beautiful. And I said, this kid looks even better than he did just a couple months ago. Because this isn't like a year ago that we saw this kid. We only saw this kid like 6 months ago. And it's almost like night and day. He's turned into a tremendously talented player. And if he's playing like that, and if he could translate that into the NHL more, this kid is going to be a really, really good find.
I honestly believe, like in Finland, because they have such a great structure they have their SM Liga, they have their Liga level. I find the way that they get these kids bunched up with the coaches and the coaches' development staff, and the way they find these kids, and then they say, hey, we'll take a guy from, the USA or Canada, and they say, okay, let's bring this Merkley kid over. Let's get this guy playing our way, and let's see if he lives up to the billing. And from what you're saying, he's living up to their billing, and the coach likes what he's seeing. And I'm sure this is like Tommy Fitzgerald's like, he's like really like, oh, I love this. I love my return on investment right now.
I know.
Because,
I mean, it's,
I watched that play when he did that beautiful goal. I was like, is this the same Merkley I saw versus like Arizona or Carolina when he played?
Right.
Like, if he can play this well, third, second line at the NHL level, there's going to be so much depth. There's going to be so many guys coming in and out of the lineup that I believe the Devils could easily be middle of the road or even wild card if the Devils' defense and goaltending hold up. And I try not to have any high expectations. I do understand that this is the last year of NBC's contract with the NHL before they go on to another kind of media deal. And they're supposed to play out a full season's worth or something like that, where there's going to be like no all-star games. So that's what I was reading. I think this, post COVID-19 pause, where the new season of 21, goes into almost June, pre-June, I would say, but because I guess they don't want to. They want to get the NHL expansion draft going, and then they want to have after the expansion draft, they want to have the NHL draft around the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be a sprint, not a marathon in 2021. That's basically what it's going to be from start to finish. It's going to be like, you're not going to have that many days off. You're going to have a lot of games where you're going to have a lot of weeks where maybe you're playing 3 games. You might be playing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like just because they're trying to get these games in. So with that being said, that's probably going to mean that, there's going to be more bodies needed, as the season progresses, because you get an injury, you don't have a lot of time to necessarily, get guys to, be ready. So I think that there's an opportunity for a lot of these guys that we've talked about that may get a really good opportunity to play. And also, again, Tom Fitzgerald has made it public that, look, obviously the team is not where it needs to be. They're not a Stanley Cup contender. We all know that. We're not even really that much of a playoff contender. We know that. But Tom Fitzgerald wants this team to be competitive. He wants the team to win now, and he wants them to win in the future. So he's made moves this offseason to benefit us now. He's made moves as well to benefit the team in the long term. And speaking of the long term, I will tell you this, and we talked about this kid a few minutes ago, and this is kind of like the last one that I have on my list.
Yeah.
I love this kid because of his name. I love that he's Finnish, and I really, really hope he makes the team. And that is E2. How do you say his last name?
Pakila. Anytime there's this like A with the doubles, the A double like that, it's an
So E2
like Pakila. So when you have the two L's, you gotta say the two L's.
So it's E2
E2 Pakila.
Pakila, right. And I don't know what it is about him. And yeah, he's not signed. So obviously there's a chance that he might not be on the Devils long term. I hope so. I actually think this kid is one of those sneaky under the radar players that could creep up into the Devils organization without anybody really realizing it. Like he's playing for what is it? Ilves in Liga. I know he's playing in Liga. I don't know how to say his team's name.
Let me see. How do you spell it?
It's spelled Ilves.
Ilves?
Ilves. Yeah, he's playing for Ilves in Liga, and he has 2 goals, 2 assists in 8 games. So he's doing pretty well.
He's doing decent.
He's doing decent in, I think that's the top league, if I'm not mistaken.
Liga is the top league in Finland.
Top league. So he's playing in the top league in Finnish hockey. This is a kid that the Devils will have to make a decision on probably within the next 6 to 8 months. Because I think his eligibility with the team runs out pretty soon.
Yeah, Cap Friendly will like.
I hope this is not like a Mitchell Holscher situation where the Devils just don't sign him.
They don't have enough room.
They may not have enough room too. It might be that as well. But the other 2 guys that are playing in Finland are guys that are on loan that are already on this team. So I don't know if E2 is a left winger. The Devils do need left wingers. Mm-hmm. And again, some of the guys in the bottom 6, their contracts are running out soon. So he might be a guy that the Devils need in the long term because of that depth. And I think that if he continues to play the way he's been playing, being consistent, being solid, I think the Devils will say, you know what? Let's give this kid a deal because I think this kid can help us.
Get him to Binghamton at least.
Exactly. And I think that if he is like to continue to play this way, I think that the Devils will give him an opportunity to play in Binghamton. And I think that'll work for him because if he's playing in the toughest league in Finland, which I believe that's the same league that Capo Kakko was playing in.
Yes. And Anton Lundell.
Right, and Anton Lundell. And he's having success in that league. That makes you say, and look, the Devils like Finns. This is no question.
They love their Nordic players. They love their Russians and their Belarusian players.
Right.
As well as
they like those kids. And I really do think this kid has potential. I really do. I don't know what it is exactly, but I think this kid has a lot of potential. I think should be given a bigger look. And if he keeps playing the way he's been playing, I would really, really give him a contract and give him an opportunity to go down to Binghamton, play with that team. Because if Binghamton can build off of the chemistry that it had last year when they were the hottest team in the second half of the season and have the success they're doing with Dehaney as their head coach,
mm-hmm.
I think that kid could, come right in and be a really, really solid contributor and a guy that the Devils can look at and say, bottom 6 guy that can really help us. And that's the way we got to look at it. Because I would rather the Devils have their bottom 6 be filled with guys that are within this farm system than them going out and signing guys that are going to be on your bottom 6.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why I was never big on John Hayden. Because again,
I don't think anyone was very high on John Hayden.
I don't think a lot of people were big on Kevin Rooney. I mean, I know I wasn't, but that's me.
I couldn't even watch.
Right.
Nothing against Kevin Rooney. It's just
we had too many nice guys, as the Devils Twitter universe used to say. We had too many nice guys on the team.
Yeah, I'm more like the up yours type player.
Well, The thing for me is that I'm never a big fan of having your third and fourth line be guys that can't contribute on the score sheet. I would rather have 4 full lines that can contribute every single night, like Tampa has. That's the way I look at it. I
You need to roll every line.
right,
Like,
exactly. And same thing with Vegas. You look at those teams, they have incredible depth on all 4 lines. They just roll them out. It doesn't matter. That's what I want to see the Devils have in the future. A team that is 4 lines deep offensively. That can just, any single one of those lines could go out there and get you a goal when they need him the most. And I think that's important to me. So I think E2 could be a guy that can help us get to where we want to be with what I'm saying. So I think that, considering he's playing pretty well in the top league in Finland, I think deserves to be given an opportunity to come to the AHL and play when that season starts.
absolutely.
And we have some holes in the Binghamton team, so we need to fill them with something.
Yes, absolutely. Like, it's kind of like when you have a high school hockey team, you want to have the best kids going for the best spots in tryouts.
Yep.
And, you want those kids to graduate to the NHL level. And then you want to have someone to take in the JV team and
Right.
fill into the AHL team.
Yep.
And then you kind of have, I like to think of the ECHL and the ones below, kind of like not a freshman league, but like a development league
Yeah,
type.
I know what you mean.
So it's like you have that there to be like, if you don't have enough room, you could, shuttle a guy down there and then bring him back up. But don't do it too many times that you develop an Evan Cormier.
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, look, I will finish by saying to Devils fans that are listening, look, I know you guys have heard this before, and I know people are going to kill me for saying this, but just try to be patient, because this is now a new regime that's taking over. And what's good about this regime compared to the Shiro regime is that Fitzgerald already has pieces in place. He's not coming to a team where he just has to completely start over. He's going to build this team in his image. He's going to do it differently than what Ray Shero did. And a lot of Devils fans already have liked what he's done in just one offseason. I mean, even at the deadline, he did things that Ray Shero wasn't doing, and really, being blunt and being honest with where the Devils are moving forward. And a lot of the guys that we mentioned in the past hour and change are guys that, some of them are going to be major contributors. Alexander Holtz, Sharon, Govich, guys like that.
Mercer.
Right. Other guys that we mentioned, they might be guys that would be on the bottom 6, but are still going to be contributors. And we're going to look back and say, I'm really glad the Devils took him. I'm really glad that, we kept him in the organization. And Fitzgerald is going to build this team the way he wants to build them. And that's the way we see this Devils team once the Devils become a Stanley Cup contender, which I think it's not going to be that far away, honestly.
Maybe 2.5 seasons.
2.5, 3 seasons, which is not long. I will take that. You'll see, when the product is finished, you'll see what Fitzgerald's team, what he wanted his team to be. And that's what we're going to get. And we have a lot of cap space, not just this season, but seasons moving forward. And we have a lot of control over a lot of the players that we mentioned. So, and the fact that a lot of them also have, they have the ability to go overseas and play and get some time there, that to me is very important for their development for the now and very important for their development in the future. And these are guys that you want to keep your eye on going into this season and seasons moving forward. So,
yeah, I definitely would say before we sign off is that, like, Devils fans, we are in a new era. And, I know everyone wants, constant, improvement of results. If I were to be more positive than last year, I would say maybe we'd be about 49% winning of those upcoming season games versus last year. Because, if the league is going to do this division where the metropolitan teams are going to be more localized.
Right. We're just playing metropolitan teams all season.
It's going to be bloodbath, talent and physical play each game. It's going to be like, like Devils, Rangers, Islanders,
Right.
Capitals.
Yeah.
You got the most Columbus.
It's no secret the Metropolitan Division is the toughest division in the NHL. There is no secret to that. It's a grinded out. There is some finesse in there, no doubt. I mean, we have arguably the best scorer of this generation. We have two of the best players of this generation playing in that division. And look, the Capitals, Penguins, they're getting older. They're not going to be as competitive in the next 2 or 3 years. The Devils, the Rangers, the Islanders, the Blue Jackets, it's going to get to that point where we're going to be part of those teams that are on the rise, so to speak. I don't like saying that, but, are going to be, moving up. And that's the big thing.
And I will say this, like Steve Coriano's just talked about, like, even from a Rangers standpoint, is that, when you have Malkin and Crosby slowly to digress and they start to begin to think about retiring or whatever, then those teams are going to start to cripple a little bit more. And we're starting to see a little bit more of that, even though they got back that Kasperi Kapanen type player in Kasperi Kapanen. But really, like, you have the Rangers got their guys, the Devils have their guys that they're bringing in. And to me, like, the goaltenders in this division in hockey is only going to get much better with a grinded out style, almost no days off type format this upcoming season in 2021, but it's going to be probably a full season because of the last year of NBC's contract, where if it weren't for that, they'd probably say, yes, we could do maybe a little less than that. But really, I think with the way that, all the other things considered, I really think it's going to be a very competitive, league and season. And you're probably going to see a lot more young guys coming in.
Yeah, it's going to be a good season, I think, no matter what. I think the Devils will have an advantage if they do end up just playing the Metropolitan Division, because they'll see these guys a lot. They're able to understand, how difficult that division is to play in. And if they're having success, even this year, they're having success, that goes a long way. And I think Fitzgerald understands that we're in a new era. It's a new age of hockey. We're still in the pandemic, but kind of like post-pandemic, this is going to be the first full season of pandemic hockey, if you want to call it that. Yeah. The NHL wants to have fans. I just don't think right now it's possible. I think that they're going to have to wait a while and really try to figure that out as we go along. But I think that this is going to sound funny in a way, but I think not having fans there might actually be a good thing for the Devils, because it will allow them to then have more focus on the game itself and not worrying about the crowd atmosphere, especially when they go on the road. If they're playing in Washington, they're playing on the island, they're playing in Columbus, they're playing in Madison Square Garden, they'll only be able to focus on the game. And I think that will go a long way. And also it'll go back to, for a lot of these players, it'll go back to when they were little kids playing in those small arenas where they had, not many people watching them. It'll go back to that. And I think that will be a calming thing, especially if we have a lot of young players making NHL debuts. I think that will go a long way, because the pressure won't be as much and they can just focus on the job that they need to do once they get in the game. And we have a veteran coaching staff and experienced coaching staff who have won championships, albeit not the head coach, but you get my point.
Right.
We have a veteran coaching staff. We have good veteran, leaders, Zajac, Palmieri, Subban, guys, Crawford, guys like that, Ryan Murray. I think that, it might not be right now, but I will say this, our time is coming. That's the way I would look at it. And I might start that as a hashtag on Twitter. Our time is coming.
I will say this, the uprise is coming.
Right. There we go.
You know how, what was it? Pete DeBoer said, with Kovalchuk and all them, swarm it up.
Right.
That's going to be coming pretty soon. But the Red Army is starting to build,
Right.
and they're going to start marching forward, and they're going to start taking back
Absolutely.
the league by storm, and they're going to prove that, you know, in a post-Doc Emmerich era of hockey, that, you know, Cangelosi should be screaming, "Scar! Alexander Holtz! He finishes off the beautiful drive from Jack Hughes."
That's that was pretty good. That was a pretty good. That was pretty good. Cangelosi impression right there, Joe. Way to go.
Oh God, it's, you know, when you listen to him for like, I don't know.
I know a lot of Red Bulls fans that are not big on him, but you know, it is what it is. I love Kanji. I'll always love Kanji, and you know, he brings out big energy, and we need that.
I miss Doc, and if I had my opportunity to do a Devils game like that, oh hell yeah.
Yeah, I know. That would be great. It'd be great for him to come back, but obviously he's retired now, and I hope he's doing well. And it makes, I mean, look, 2020's been such a crazy year. This is probably the good year to hang it up.
I think he's enjoying the champagne and bubbles and sitting back on his ranch, back at the ranch.
He's back at the Dock Ranch, yeah, with his dogs, his lovely wife. Yeah, it's I think he's gonna enjoy retirement. I really do.
I really think he's tapping into that nest egg. He's gonna listen to Chico talk. I said one time that they should have a podcast.
Oh, that would be something else. I think that would be one of the most listened to podcasts in the hockey world. I think a lot of people, especially people who don't know Chico Resch and don't know what he's about, having those two guys together is tremendous. And I think Doc, I'm sure he misses doing games with Chico. I'm glad Chico's back, you know, doing games on the radio with the Devils. But obviously, it would be great for those two to get back together one last time, just for old time's sake.
I think they should do, like, you know how NBC's doing that thing in the studio? I think MSG should do that with Doc and Chico, like, tuning in. There should be, like, Chico eats, like,
from his kitchen.
Yeah, in his kitchen.
Yeah.
And
that would be great.
The wife makes him something good, and like,
right. Yeah, like, that would be
everybody,
great.
This is my wife's homemade poutine.
Right.
This is how I'm gonna eat it.
That would be a very entertaining thing.
With a mustache.
Yeah, no doubt.
Especially when Marty Brodeur beat Patrick Waugh's record of 552. That I saw him eat that poutine like there's no tomorrow.
You gotta love Chico.
He actually signed my jersey.
Nice.
He one time forgot to finish it up during Niedermayer's retirement night, and I saw him like months later against the Leafs, and this is also the game I met Dinas Zubers at, and this was before that, before the game started, and I said, "Hey Chico, remember this? Take a look back there," and he's going, "Oh, that's right. You can't come over here." And right in the the parking lot where the players come out.
Yeah.
And he comes out in his car and he signs the back of it and he finishes it.
That is great. That's a great story.
I don't know how many people will bring up stories like that, but if anyone has an interesting Devils story or something, tell it to us, you know, here on Heads Up Hockey or even at Devil State of Mind. I know you got a really good episode with Brendan Burke, the son of Brian Burke.
Yep. Yeah, it was a really good time to talk to him for a half hour or so. It was a good interview. There's a good chance we got Greg Wyshynski from ESPN coming on in a couple of days as well. I know he's a big Devils fan.
I was going to say that.
He doesn't mention it, but I'll bring it up. But nonetheless, that's pretty much what I got coming up. You know, not this Monday, but the following Monday. But you know, this week's episode coming up will pretty much be talking about, you know, what we talked about tonight, just prospect update, you know, how guys are doing. We didn't get to everybody, but you know.
But we hit off a lot of players from past drafts that,
No doubt.
that are developing into something interesting,
No
where
doubt.
I know most people usually don't think about as much as like the 19 and 20 classes. If I was comparing this to like wine, we're talking about the 2017, 2018 vintages. So that's just me in a nutshell, trying
Okay.
to bring people up to speed. And we did a great job. I don't know where you want to hashtag anything. Where do you want to just like wrap up on?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously you can, if you want me to say, you can follow me on Twitter at THENVPSHOW. That's my personal Twitter. And obviously you can follow the Devil State of Mind podcast at Devil State. We post new episodes of the podcast. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, just search Hockey Podcast Network or Devil State of Mind and you'll find it. You could search the hashtag THPN, where not only you'll see things posted from the Devil State of Mind podcast, but all the podcasts on the HPN. We have a podcast for literally every single team in the National Hockey League, and we also have just original podcasts, which is great.
Europuck podcast.
Yeah, we have Europuck podcast, which is good. Shout out to my good friend Oddman Rush. He's one of the hosts of that. They do a good job of talking about European hockey. So if you want a European perspective and what's going on in Euro leagues, that's a place to go. But yeah, we have a Instagram at Devil State of Mind, and we also have a Facebook page. Just search Devil State of Mind, and you can also follow me on my personal Instagram at EndofVPQB11. So that is where you can find me.
And for people who they like to read stuff, on hockey, I'm actually technically a amateur hockey scout for the Puck Authority. I write for them. My name is Joseph Stanislaw. I am found at Heads Up Hockey on Twitter. So here is my my podcast address if you're looking for me, and you can find me on my personal Instagram. I mean, not Instagram. I do have Instagram, but my Twitter is at Jersey Devil OG. So yeah, it's not old gangster.
I mean, you could type in Jersey Joe and you probably find it too.
Yeah, that too. There might be a couple of Jersey Joes out there, but if you see that logo up there,
yeah, there you go.
That's me. That's me. That's not some poser. So yeah, if you wanted to follow me on Instagram at JERSEYDEVIL. Oh, it's like God, man. It's been an interesting day. It's actually at Joe of Jersey. Sorry, I'm just thinking of my two Instagrams. So you'll see this.
There you go.
And sometimes I might post something to my stories from the podcast episode. So for those of you who are listening from whether it's USA, Europe, Canada, wherever you're from, please give us a holler. That should be it. Neil, I think we did a really awesome job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm a fan of your podcast. I know you're a big supporter of the Devil State of Mind podcast. We appreciate you. I'm always happy to talk some Devils hockey. And this was a great time, and I'm looking forward to being on here again in the future, no doubt.
Thank you. And here we go.